श्री श्री गुरु गौरांग गंधा विकगिरिधारी श्री श्री राधा विनोद बिहारी जू की जय। श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन जू की जय। नित्यालप विष्णु विष्णुपार शुतर शुत शिशुमार भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज श्रील गुरुदेव की जय। नित्यालप विष्णु विष्णुपार शुतर शुत शिशुमार भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्यालप विष्णु विष्णुपार शुतर शुत शिशुमार भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज शिल प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्यालप विष्णु विष्णुपार शुतर शुत शिशुमार भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्यालप विष्णु विष्णुपार शुतर शुत शिशुमार भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्यालप विष्णु महाभागवत शिल गोरक्षरस बाबाजी महाराज की जय। नित्यालप विश्व शिल सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। नित्यालप विष्णु वैष्णव सार्वभौम शिल जगन्नाथ दास बाबाजी महाराज की जय। श्री रूपानु गौरिय गुरु वर्ग की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ शारद गोसाई प्रभु की जय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री गौर पार्षद वृंद की जय। नाम जय श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल ब्रज मंडल मथुर वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट विराट गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंद श्याम कुंद की जय। श्री मुन देवी गंग देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाय की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। जय श्री भक्ति तत्व विवेक की जय। जय श्री हम्म, जय श्री कृष्णदास ठाकुर की जय। तदीय शुभ तिरुभाव तिथि की जय। श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। दिल मंगल चरण। अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। गुरुवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकायै तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। श्रीसिद्धान्तसरस्वतीति विदितो कोडियगुर्वन्वये भातो भानुरिव प्रभातगगने योगोरसङ्कीर्तनाय मायावारतिमिङ्गिलोदरगतान् उद्धृत्य जीवनिमान् कृष्णप्रेमसुधाब्धिगाहनसुखं प्रदत् प्रभुं तं भजे। वन्दे भक्तिविनोदं श्रीगौरशक्तिस्वरूपकं भक्तिशास्त्रज्ञसम्राजं राधारससुधानिधिं नमो भक्तिविनोदाय सच्चिदानन्दनामिने गौरशक्तिस्वरूपाय रूपानुगपरायते श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। वृषभानुसुतान्वितवामतनुं यमुनातटनागरनन्दसुतं मुरलीकलगीतविनोरपरं भज गोद्रुमकाननकुञ्जविदुम् स्मर गौरगदाधरकेलिकलं Bhava Gaura Gadadhara Pakshachara Shrinu Gaura Gadadhara Charukatang Bhaja Godrumakanana Kunja Vidum Tavai Vasmi Na Jivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Devi Tvang Nayamang Charanantikam Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshai Kshiptascha Kamadittaranga Madhe Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Dandavat Pranams Ashray Tattva Prabhu Nitai Mukesh ji. Let's see, on YouTube and Facebook, Rukmini Didi, and Raseshwari Mataji, Prajumna Prabhu, Mantramurti Mataji. I'm guessing Indira Mataji is there. Maybe my brother Krishna Murari, Bangshiwala Prabhu. I don't know. If you write a comment, I'll see your name. But Dandavat Pranams to everybody. Also pranams to all the devotees watching in the future. Haribol. So now we are beginning the last chapter of this Bhakti-tattva-viveka. I haven't looked through it yet, so I don't even know what the topics are in this chapter. But yeah, we'll all discover it together. Um, this is chapter 4, an analysis of the qualification for bhakti. And I think in the beginning, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives a summary of the previous chapters of it, right? I think so. So I'm not gonna give a summary. We'll just read this. Karma Gyan. Okay, this is the Mangala Charan verse. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote a unique Mangala Charan verse for each chapter of this book. Haribo Vangshiwala Prabhu. Haribo. So, Karma Gyana Viragadi Cheshtam Hitva Samantata Shraddhavan Bhajate Yang Shri Chaitanyam Aham Bhaje. Shraddhavan Bhajateyam Shri Chaitanyam Aham Bhaje. I worship Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is always served by faithful devotees who have completely given up the pursuits of fruitive activity and personal knowledge and dry renunciation. In the first chapter, we discussed the intrinsic nature of unalloyed devotion. In the second chapter, we discussed the intrinsic nature of bhakti abhas, or that which appears to be devotion, but in fact is not. And in the third chapter, we discussed the natural attributes of unalloyed devotion. In this chapter, we will discuss the qualification, the adhikar for Shuddha Bhakti. No one acquires anything without possessing the eligibility for it. This eligibility or qualification is the very foundation of success. When a devotee fully understands this, he will no longer remain doubtful concerning his eventual achievement of the ultimate goal. Many devotees think, for a long time now, I have been fully surrendered to my Guru. I have accepted the Diksha mantra from him. I am also engaged in hearing and chanting, but still, I am not experiencing the desired result. What is the reason for this? Gradually, they become uninterested in their bhajan, and in the end, they become totally faithless. Sound knowledge of the proper qualification for bhakti can easily protect one from such doubts. And there, my brother is Haribo Krishna Murari and Ganga Mataji Dandavat Pranam. Okay. It should be carefully noted that the performance of devotional activities such as hearing and chanting, and the resultant appearance of symptoms like the shedding of tears and trembling, should not be accepted as true bhakti for anyone and everyone. Um, Hence, in order to take shelter of unalloyed devotion, it is compulsory to analyze the proper qualification for it. The Hari Bhajan performed by those who are eligible to perform karma and cultivate gyan usually becomes a part of mere karma and gyan. Therefore, such people don't obtain the auspicious fruit that is expected from the performance of bhajan. A devotee's Hari Bhajan becomes pure only when he obtains the proper qualification for unalloyed devotion. And when this happens, his bhajan will very quickly bear fruit in the form of bhav. For this reason, I have undertaken an analysis of this very important topic. Scholars quote the following verse from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 16. Chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukritino arjuna artha jigyasurartharthi jnani cha bharatarshava. Shri Krishna said, My dear Arjuna, as a result of their accumulation of pious activities in innumerable lifetimes, four types of people engage in bhajan unto me. What are the four types? There's the artha, those who are distressed, arti, no, artha, yeah, those who are inquisitive, who are jigyasu, those who desire wealth, those who are artha arti, and those who possess spiritual knowledge, jnanis. These four kinds of virtuous persons are qualified to perform bhajan unto me. Yes. Those who are very anxious to eradicate their distress are called artha. Those who are inquisitive to understand the absolute truth are called jigyasu. Those who desire to attain material happiness are called artharthi. And those who are realizing spiritual truth at every moment are called jnani. Though one may be artha, jigyasu, artharthi, or jnani, unless one has some accumulated pious merit, some sukriti, he will not be inclined towards bhajan. Srila Jiva Goswami has defined sukriti as those activities in connection with transcendental personalities that give rise to an intense desire to perform bhakti. Let me just reread that. So, what is the definition of Jiva Goswami's definition of sukriti? It is those activities in connection with transcendental personalities that give rise to an intense desire to perform bhakti. There may be doubts concerning the existence of sukriti in the arthas, jigyasus, and artharthis, but in relation to the jnanis, there are no such doubts. It is a fact that those who possess spiritual knowledge certainly engage in bhajan after their abundant accumulation of sukriti. Srila Rupa Goswami writes in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1, 2, verses 20 to 21. Tatra Gita Dishuktanam Chaturnam Adhikarinam Madhye Yasmin Bhagavata Kripa Syat Tat Priyasya Va Sakshina Tattar Bhava Syach Chuda Bhaktyadik Yathe Shonakadischa Dhruva Sa Cha sorry, Dhruva Sa Cha Chatusana. When the four types of persons who are eligible to engage in bhakti, as mentioned in Bhagavad Gita and other scriptures. When they receive the mercy of Bhagavan or his devotees, they become free from the particular motives that are, respectively, the desire for relief from distress, the desire to have their inquisitiveness satisfied, the desire to obtain wealth, and the attachments to impersonal knowledge. They then become rightful candidates for unalloyed devotion. This is clearly visible from the examples of Gajendra. Right? Gajendra was in distress. The sages headed by Shonaka, they were Jigyasu, they were inquisitive. Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj was desirous of wealth, Artharthi. And the four Kumaras, they were Gyanis. When Gajendra was seized by the crocodile and was unable to free himself despite innumerable strenuous efforts, he fervently prayed to Bhagavan. Then Bhagavan, the savior of the distressed, appeared and delivered Gajendra by killing the crocodile. By the mercy of Bhagavan, Gajendra's distress was removed, and he became qualified for unalloyed devotion. Shonak and other sages became very fearful upon the arrival of Kali Yuga. Understanding the inability of fruit of activity to yield any benefit, they approached the great devotee Sutta Goswami and inquired how the people of this age could attain the ultimate benefit. In his reply, Sutta Goswami instructed them on pure devotion, and as a result of receiving his mercy in this way, they attained Shuddha Bhakti. Dhruva Maharaj worshipped Bhagavan, motivated by the desire to attain an opulent kingdom. But when Bhagavan appeared before him, by Bhagavan's mercy, his desire for a kingdom vanished, and he became qualified for pure bhakti. Sanak, Sanatan, Sanandana, and Sanat are the four Kumaras. Previously, they were impersonalists, but later on, by the mercy of Bhagavan and his devotees, they completely rejected the conception of impersonalism and attained the qualification for Shuddha Bhakti. The purport is that as long as all of them harbored desires within their hearts, either for relief from their distress, the purport is, as long as all of them harbored desires within their hearts, either for relief from their distress, to satisfy their inquisitiveness, or to obtain wealth, or were attached to an impersonal conception of the absolute truth, as long as they harbored these desires, they were ineligible for devotion, for unalloyed devotion. Therefore, in relation to the qualification for pure bhakti, Śrīla Rupa Goswami has written, and this is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-14. Ya kenapyati bhagyena jata shraddhosya sevane nati sakto navairagya bhag asyam adhikaryasyo. When one is not too attached to or detached from this material world, and by some good fortune develops faith in the service of Krishna's lotus feet, he is considered to possess the eligibility for unalloyed devotion. The purport is that when worldly people realize the futility of worldly existence after being afflicted by various types of distress and by suffering in the absence of their desired objects, they begin to lead their lives in a mood of detachment from the material world. If, by some good fortune, at such a time they acquire the association of Bhagavan's devotees, they inquire from them and come to understand that there is no higher destination than the attainment of Bhagavan. Gradually, they develop firm faith in this and engage in bhajan. At that time, it can be said that they have developed faith in Krishna Bhakti. This very faith is the root cause of the eligibility for pure devotion, as confirmed by Srila Jiva Goswami's explanation found in Bhakti Sandarbha Anuched 172 of these verses from Srimad Bhagavatam 11:20 verses 27 to 28. Okay. Sorry, my mind was going somewhere else when I was reading because something happened before the reading. I'm just, okay, but it's by faith. Okay. All right, so let's see. What do these verses say in Srimad Bhagavatam? Jata shraddho matkatasu nirvinna sarva karmasu veda dukatmakan kaman parityage pyanishvara tato bhajet mam prita shraddhalur dridha nishchaya jushamanas kaman dukho darkangscha garhayan. This is such these are such important verses. I don't have them memorized yet, but I've heard them so many times, and I really should because it's so practical, these verses. Shri Krishna said, if anybody wants to memorize these verses, let me know because I want to memorize them also. And so we can help each other, test each other, or something. So Shri Krishna said, my devotees who have developed faith in hearing the narrations of my pastimes remain detached from fruitive activities and try to accept the objects of the senses just enough to maintain their lives, knowing well that sense enjoyment leads to a miserable result. Still enduring the reactions of their previous activities and endeavoring to become free from the cycle of the pleasant and unpleasant results that arise from such activities, they sincerely regret those fruitive activities and silently condemn them. They simply tolerate the reactions to those activities while simultaneously remaining engaged in bhajan unto me with firm faith and resolve. I want to read another translation for this verse. Let's see, is there a translation for it in Madhuri Kadambini? Just give me 1 second here. Jata Shraddho. Jata Shraddho. Okay, here's a translation from Madhuri Kadambini. Okay. I'm speaking of an aspiring devotee who has become detached from fruitive activities, for he knows them to cause sorrow. He has developed faith in the narrations of my pastimes, and he knows desires for sense enjoyment to be the emblem of misery. Although he knows this as a fact, he is unable to abandon sense enjoyment. Although he knows this as a fact, he is unable to abandon sense enjoyment. Even though such a practitioner sometimes ends up engaging in sense enjoyment, he should know in his heart of hearts that it leads to misery. He should sincerely repent for having performed such activities and understand them to be misfortunes of his own doing. At the same time, he should continue to perform bhajan of me with faith, determination, and love in order to extricate himself from this predicament. Isn't that such a great verse? So, yeah, and this translation made it a lot more relatable.
Yeah, the wording of the second one is a lot more appealing.
Yeah. That's why I wanted to find another translation because that one didn't quite do it. This one didn't quite do it for me. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So if anybody wants a second, share it with them. Also, this translation. Hari Bol Chatamai Mataji and Vidyalalasa Didi. Oh, and Rukmini Didi, I'm just looking at the comments. She said, I was just looking for and found one of those verses yesterday. So cool. While explaining the above verses, which describe how a faithful devotee performs bhajan, Srila Jiva Goswami has commented in Bhakti Sandarbha. He commented, tad evam ananya bhaktadikare hetum shraddha matram uktva sa yatha bhajeta tatha shikshayati. Which means that faith is the sole cause of the qualification to perform exclusive devotion. Srila Jiva Goswami also mentions, Shraddha hi shastrartha vishvasaha, shastram cha tad asharanasya bhayam tach charanasya bhayam vadati, ato jataya shraddhayas tat sharanapatir eva lingam iti. Which means that faith in the words of the scriptures is called Shraddha. The scriptures mention that those who have taken shelter of the lotus feet of Bhagavan have nothing to fear. But those who have not done so remain fearful. Thus, it can be understood from the symptoms of Sharanapati, from surrender, that whether or not faith has developed. Thus, it can be understood from the symptoms of Sharanapati, surrender, whether or not faith has developed within someone. What is Sharanapati? What is surrender? Srila Jiva Goswami writes, Jatayam Shraddhayam Sada Tad Anuvritti Cheshtaiva Syat. And also, Karma Paritago Vidhiyate. Which mean that upon the appearance of faith, the constant endeavor to serve Krishna, Krishnanuvritti Cheshta, is always visible in a person's behavior, and the tendency to perform fruitive activities is altogether removed. This is Sharanapati. And Srila Jiva Goswami also says that Shraddha is synonymous with surrender. I once wrote something for Vine of Devotion. Let me just see if I can find it. Vine of Devotion. And I have a bunch of quotes there about how Shraddha and Sharanagati are synonymous. It was a while ago I put that. Is it this one? The seed of the vine of devotion? Yes, it is. It's this one. So these are 4 descriptions of Shraddha, 4 definitions of Shraddha in the scriptures. This is like the most famous one. Shraddha is a special tendency of the heart, the chitta vritti vishesh, which is directed only towards serving Krishna and which is free from any desire to follow other processes. This one's also very famous. Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kohi Sudrida Nishchoy. Here, this is what I was looking for though. This is from Bhakti Sandarbha Anuched 176. So Srila Jiva Goswami says, one should understand that the meaning of Shraddha, faith, and Sharanagati, surrender, is the same. Shraddha Sharanapatyor Aikartyam Labhyate. Scripture instructs devotees who are surrendered to Bhagavan's worshipful feet to be fearless. Those who are not surrendered are fearful. Therefore, when such an unflinching faith in the purports of Scripture awakens, its symptom is surrender. In other words, only by surrender is the presence of faith identified. Okay, anyhow. Was that the same thing that we just read now? No, I don't think so. Okay, so in Bhagavad Gita 1866, after giving separate explanations of karma, jnana, and bhakti, through a most confidential statement, Bhagavan has given instruction on full surrender. Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja. Ahang tvang sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. We should understand the words sarva dharma in this verse to mean paths that are obstacles to complete surrender, such as the pursuance of one's occupational duties within the varnashram system and the worship of demigods. Sri Krishna is saying, rejecting all of these, One should surrender unto me, meaning one should develop exclusive faith towards engaging in bhajan unto me. Don't be fearful of the reactions that come to those who commit the sin of rejecting their occupational duties. I assure you that I will free you from the reactions to all such sins. The doubts may arise that the word faith actually refers here to respect. The paths of karma, gyan, and so forth also require faith. Thus, faith is not only the cause of bhakti, but of karma and gyan also. I think it was in this article. Let me just, sorry guys, maybe I should just focus on, but um, let's see. Shraddha is, okay, no, this isn't what I was looking for. Anyways, I'll continue reading. But there's this point that in order to, um, anyways, I'm just going to continue reading. Okay, so the paths of karma, gyan, and so forth also require faith. Thus, faith is not only the cause of bhakti, but of karma and gyan also. The philosophical principle is that the word shraddha actually means feelings of faith in the injunctions of the scriptures. And included within this feeling, another sentiment certainly exists, which is called ruchi, taste. Wow, that's interesting. Within shraddha, there's also taste. Despite possessing faith, one may not desire to participate in a particular activity unless he has developed taste for it. Despite possessing faith, one may not desire to participate in a particular activity unless he has developed taste for it. Faith in the paths of karma and gyan is always mixed with a particular is always mixed with a particle of bhakti in the form of ruchi. Only through the influence of this fraction of bhakti are the paths of karma and gyan able to yield any result. Similarly, the faith that develops for bhakti is endowed with ruchi. And this faith is none other than the seed of the creeper of devotion, the bhakti lata, which is sown in the heart of the living entity. Ruchi can also mean inclination, right? I think so. Taste or inclination. Faith in the paths of karma and gyan is mixed with taste for the activities of karma and gyan respectively. But the nature of this faith is different. Only faith that is endowed with taste for bhakti culminates in the symptoms of bhakti. This is called sharanapati, full surrender. One second, I'm just moving these comments back. Actually, I want to look up the word ruchi in the dictionary. Ruchi. So in the Bengali, Samsara Bengali dictionary, ruchi is a liking, inclination. See, that's what it's saying. Taste, approbation. I don't even know that word. Relish, light, luster, beauty. But liking, inclination, and taste. So I think it could also here it means only when one's inclination for bhakti, um, yeah, advances through the progressive stages of only when one's taste or inclination for bhakti advances through the progressive stages of sadhu sangha, performance of bhajan, absence of anarthas, and finally assumes the form of nishta, only then does it become pure ruchi. That's okay, and then it becomes a stage of ruchi. But even in Shraddha, there's a little bit of ruchi, it seems like, right? But only it becomes pure ruchi once you reach that. You go through sadhu sangha bhajana kriya anantana vritti and nishta, and then you arrive at pure ruchi. Thus, faith is a separate entity from bhakti. I don't understand that sentence actually. Faith is a separate entity from bhakti. I guess just having faith, you haven't, that's not pure bhakti yet, but it's definitely a part of bhakti, right? anyways, Srila Jiva Goswami writes in Bhakti Sandarbha, Tasmat Shraddha na bhaktyanga, sorry, na bhaktyanga angam kintu karmanyasamartha vidvat tavad an, ananyata kyayam bhaktavadhikari visheshanam eva. Oh no, it says, hence, faith is not a limb of bhakti, but an attribute of the qualification for bhakti, resulting from one's having become indifferent to the ritualistic fruitive activities known as karma kanda. Actually, that makes sense also because we hear that um, Sharanagati is not bhakti directly, it is the doorway to bhakti. That's just like the entrance into bhakti. Um, yeah. Although Atmani Vedan, right, is anyhow. Okay, so it says in Srimad Bhagavatam 11:29, Tavat karmani kurvita na nirvidyeta yavata mat katha shravanado va shraddha yavam na jayate. Shri Krishna says, one should continue performing his occupational duties as long as he has not become indifferent to them and has not developed faith in hearing the narrations of my pastimes. The purport is that one is qualified to renounce his occupational duties only when he develops faith in hearing the narrations of Krishna's pastimes. This is the conclusion of the scriptures. To clarify a possible doubt here, we must note that if faith, which is the very cause of the qualification for unalloyed devotion, is itself not a limb of bhakti, then how can spiritual knowledge and renunciation, which in some instances manifest before the appearance of faith, be limbs of bhakti? Srila Rupa Goswami says in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.248, Jnana vairagayor bhakti praveshayo payogita ishat pratamam eveti nangatvam uchitam tayo. In some particular instances, spiritual knowledge, jnana, and renunciation, vairagya, may be useful while a devotee is in the initial stages of entering into bhakti, but they can never be said to be limbs of bhakti. Hence, it is an established fact that only that faith which is endowed with the symptoms of complete surrender is the cause of the qualification for pure devotion. So it isn't bhakti itself, but it is the cause for the qualification for bhakti. That's what we hear. It's the doorway to bhakti, is this faith and surrender. Sometimes people are heard saying that faith in hearing the narrations of Krishna's pastimes is developed by some through the strict performance of their occupational duties. By some through the cultivation of spiritual knowledge, and by others through renunciation of the objects of the senses. But such statements are erroneous. Okay, so faith in hearing the narrations of Krishna's pastimes are not developed through performance of one's occupational duties or by cultivation of spiritual knowledge or by renunciation of objects of the senses. No. It is possible that these processes may have been cultivated just prior to the appearance of faith, but through a more detailed analysis, it becomes apparent that somehow or another, there must have been some association with devotees just between the two instances. That is, between the cultivation of the above-mentioned processes and the appearance of faith. In this context, the following verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:51-53 is worthy of consideration. Bhavapavargo brahmato yada bhavaj janasya tarhya chuta sat samagama Satsangamo yarhi tadaiva sargato paravareshe tvai jayate mati. Sri Muchukunda said, O my dear infallible Lord, becoming opposed to you, the living entity sometimes attains worldly sense pleasure by pursuing the path of karma, and sometimes attains liberation through the cultivation of gyan. Thus, he is entangled in the repeated cycle of birth and death. If, while wandering in this way, the living entity somehow becomes fortunate and receives the association of your devotees, with great determination, he fixes his intelligence at your lotus feet, understanding you to be the only shelter of saintly persons, the origin of all creation, both material and spiritual, and the ultimate goal. Thus, fruit of activity, the cultivation of spiritual knowledge, renunciation, and so on, can never be the cause of the appearance of faith. Only the association of devotees can cause the appearance of Shraddha. In this regard, Srila Rupa Goswami has composed lines such as Ya kenapyati bhagena jatta shraddho syasevane. Is that what we just read here? I think it is. That's what we just read from Vine Devotion. I'm just looking really quick. Anyhow, sorry. No, it wasn't. No, sorry. Okay. Thus, only persons endowed with Shraddha are the rightful candidates for unalloyed devotion. There's another consideration here. Sadhan Bhakti is of two types. There's Vaidhi Sadhan Bhakti and Raganuga Sadhan Bhakti, as confirmed in this verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 125. Vaidhi Raganuga Cheti Sadvidha Sadhana Bida. It is essential to understand the difference between Vaidhi Sadhan Bhakti and Raganuga Sadhan Bhakti, because without this understanding, there may remain many suspicions that can harm the development of one's bhakti. Concerning Vaidhi Bhakti, Srila Rupa Goswami has written, Yatra raganavatatvat pravritir upajayate shashanenaiva shastrasya sa Vaidhi bhaktiruchyate. It's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 126. Bhakti is the living entity's natural inclination and the inseparable occupation of his intrinsic nature. In the conditioned stage, the jiva is opposed to Bhagavan and becomes attached to the worldly enjoyment presented by the illusory energy. As the living entity becomes immersed in worldly pleasure, his natural inclination to render loving devotional service unto Krishna becomes dormant. The jiva is fully satisfied only when, by some good fortune, his intrinsic rag, or strong loving attachment for Krishna, reawakens, however it may happen. When prem appears, raga naturally appears alongside it. But the raga, or attachment for material sense objects, that is visible in the conditioned soul, is distorted raga, not pure raga. In that stage, the inborn raga of the living entity remains covered or dormant. To awaken this inherent raga, the acceptance of spiritual instruction is essential. The Vedas and their subordinate literatures are storehouses of such instructions. The bhakti that is performed within the framework of the instructions of the scriptures is called Vaidhi Bhakti. Now I will give a brief review of Raganuga Bhakti. Srila Jiva Goswami writes in Bhakti Sandarbha, he says, Tatra Vishayena Swabhaviki Vishaya Samsargechhatishaya Maya Prema Raga Yatha Chakshur Adinam Sondaryadau Tadrisha Evatra Bhaktasya Shri Bhagavatyapi Raga Ityuchate. The powerful loving affection that naturally develops within a materialistic person by his affiliation with this objects of sense pleasure is called raga. What is raga? It is the powerful loving affection that naturally develops within a materialistic person by his affiliation with the objects of sense pleasure. Just as eyes become excited upon seeing any beautiful form, the similar inclination of a devotee towards Krishna is also called raga. The taste that develops from following in the footsteps of a personality who possesses natural affinity for such raga is called raganuga bhakti. I mean, anuga means following, right? So those who are following those who have rag, right? So raganuga bhakti. Regarding the qualification for raganuga bhakti, Srila Rupa Goswami writes, Ragatmikaika nishtaye vrajavasi janadaya tesham bhavaptaye lubdho bhavir atradikaravan tattad bhavadi madhurye shrute dhiryad apekshate natra shastram na yukting cha tallo bhutpatti lakshanam. It's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1 2, verses 291 to 292. The Vrajavasi's sentiments for Krishna are the most exalted and exceptional example of Ragatmika Bhakti. Such sentiments cannot be seen anywhere other than Vraj. The fortunate soul who develops the greed to attain sentiments for Krishna, such as those displayed by the Vrajavasis, is the rightful candidate for Raganuga Bhakti. Despite having heard about the sweetness of such sentiments, one cannot enter into them until he becomes greedy for them. The sole cause of the qualification for the practice of Raganuga Bhakti is this spiritual greed, not the careful study of scriptures or the skillful use of logic. Thus, we understand that just as faith is the only cause of the qualification for Vaidhi Bhakti, similarly, greed is the only cause of the qualification for Raganuga Bhakti. Interesting, huh? So what is the qualification for Vaidhi Bhakti? Faith. What is the qualification for Raganuga Bhakti? Greed. Here a doubt may arise concerning whether the faith that has been previously established as the cause for the eligibility for unalloyed devotion is incomplete. If that faith is the cause of the eligibility only for one type of bhakti, then why has it been said to be the cause of the eligibility for all types of bhakti? To dispel such a doubt, it is again stressed that faith is the only cause of the qualification for pure devotion. In the absence of faith, no variety of Shuddha Bhakti can ever appear. The conclusion is that Shastra Vishvasmai Shraddha, or Shraddha derived from faith in the injunctions of the scriptures, is the only cause of the qualification for Vaidhi Bhakti. And Bhava Madhurya Lobhamai Shraddha, or faith derived from intense greed to experience the sweet sentiments of the Vrajavasis, is the only cause of the qualification for Raganuga Bhakti. Only faith, whether it be Vishvasmai or Lobhamai, that means filled with or steeped with firm faith, or steeped in or filled with lob, with greed. Only faith is the cause of the eligibility for both types of pure bhakti. There are three types of rightful candidates for Vaidhi Bhakti. Uttama, topmost, Madhyam, intermediate, and Kanishta, novice, as confirmed by Srila Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-16. It says, Uttama Madhyamas chasyat Kanishtas cheti sa trida. How long is this section? Maybe is this a good place to stop reading this for today. Oh no, we're also almost at the end. Okay, let's finish. I think we could finish this in 10 minutes. Okay. So the symptoms of an Uttam Adi. Okay, wait, so he says there are three types of rightful candidates for Vaidhi Bhakti: Uttama, Madhyam, and Kanishta. The symptoms of an Uttam Adhikari in Vaidhi Bhakti are Shastra Yukto Chanipuna Sarvata Drida Nishchaya Prodha Shraddhodikariya Sabhaktav Uttamo Mata. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-17. One who is conversant with the scriptures, expert in all types of logic, and possesses unwavering determination is an Uttam Adhikari, one endowed with firm faith. The symptoms of the Madhyam Adhikari in Vaidhi Bhakti are Ya Shastradishvanipuna Shraddhavan Satu Madhyama. That's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-19. One who is not so expert in understanding the scriptures, and yet is faithful, is a Madhyam Adhikari. In other words, although when presented with difficult arguments, he is unable to answer them, within his mind he remains firmly faithful to his own principle. And the symptoms of the Kanishta Adhikari are Yo bhavet komala shraddha sa kanishto nikadyate. That's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-19. Novice devotees have very little expertise in understanding the scriptures, and their faith is very delicate and immature. It is komal. Their faith can be changed by others' logic and arguments. It is to be noted here that the Shraddha visible in these three types of faithful persons is characterized by faith in the injunctions of the scriptures and by being mixed with logical evidences that are dependent on the scriptures. According to the degree of greed possessed by the rightful candidates for Raganuga Bhakti, they can also be divided into the three categories of Uttam, Madhyama, and Kanishta. Okay, so there are Uttam, Madhyam, and Kanishta candidates for Raganuga Bhakti as well. The conclusion is that every human being has the right to perform bhakti. Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, and Antyajas, untouchables, Grihastas, Brahmacharis, Vanaprasthas, and Sannyasis, all of them can be qualified for bhakti if they have faith in the injunctions of the scriptures and the instructions of sadhu and guru. Either an educated person through the study of the scriptures, or an uneducated person through hearing the principles of the scriptures and the association of devotees, is said to have developed faith when he realizes the supremacy of bhakti as described in the scriptures. Alternatively, if one develops lobhmaya shraddha, that's shraddha imbued with greed, by continually hearing the narrations of Bhagavan's pastimes in the association of devotees, while desiring to follow in the footsteps of the Ragatmika devotees of Braj, then it can be said that he has acquired the qualification to perform Shuddha Bhakti. The qualification for pure devotion cannot be achieved by the process of impersonal knowledge, renunciation, philosophical analysis, religious discussion, self-control, or meditation. Despite receiving initiation into a bona fide disciplic succession, one cannot enter into the previously discussed Uttama Bhakti until he becomes an Uttam Adhikari. Until that time, one's bhakti can be said to be a semblance of devotion. Wow. So until we become an Uttam Adhikari, until that time, one's devotion, our devotion is said to be bhakti abhas, a semblance of devotion. There is great necessity to strive for the stage of Uttam Adhikari. This is possible only when one engages in hearing and chanting in the association of devotees. We should never think that one becomes an Uttam Adhikari simply by diligently practicing hearing and chanting, and then displaying the symptoms of shedding tears, trembling, and dancing. Because these symptoms can also be manifest, all these symptoms of shedding tears, trembling, dancing spontaneously, this can also be manifest in Bhakti Abhas. Whatever little softening of the heart and determination to realize one's inherent identity that are visible in the beginning stages of pure bhakti are far superior to the display of symptoms such as falling unconscious and so on that arise as a result of pursuing the path of bhakti abhas. Therefore, we should strive to attain unalloyed devotion with the utmost care. We should make a special effort to pursue the proper method to attain the qualification for bhakti. Otherwise, there is no possibility of attaining the eternal association of Bhagavan. Vishva Vaishnav Das puts forward the following verses. I wonder who this Vishva Vaishnav Das is, who he keeps on quoting from. On Haribo Shubhananda Prabhu Dandavat Pranams. Shraddha Lobhatmakaya sa Vishvasa Rupini yada Jayatetra tada bhakto Nrimatra syadikarita Na sankyam na cha vairagyam na dharmo na bahugyata kevalam sadhu sangoyam hetu shraddhodaye dhruvam shravanadi vidhanena sadhu sanga balena cha anarthapagame shigram shraddha nishtatmika bhavet Nishtapi ruchitam prapta Shuddha bhaktyadikaritam Tadhati sadhake nityam Esha prata sanatano Asatsango tava bhakta Aparade krite sati Shraddhapi vilayam yati Katham syat shuddha bhaktata Ata shraddhavata karyam savadhanam falaptaye anyata na bhaver bhakti shraddha prema falatmika. When shraddha that is based either on faith in the injunctions of the scriptures or on greed to follow in the footsteps of a ragatmika bhakta, when that faith appears in the heart, a person attains the qualification for pure devotion. Okay, so that's faith in the injunctions of the scriptures or greed to follow in the footsteps of a ragatmika bhakta. When one attains such those kinds of faith, then a person attains the qualification for pure devotion. The appearance of faith is not caused by renunciation, pursuing the process of enumeration, strictly adhering to the occupational duties corresponding to one's caste and stage of life, or becoming a scholar. The sole cause of the appearance of faith is the association of a sadhu who has deep love for the narrations of Krishna's pastimes. When faith appears, one becomes a Kanishta Adhikari. When one executes the limbs of sadhan bhakti, such as hearing, and when by the influence of sadhu sangha, one becomes free from anarthas, and his faith becomes dense and transforms into nishta, one develops the intermediate qualification, the madhyam adhikar, for unalloyed devotion. By the further pursuance of the activities of sadhan bhakti, such as hearing, and by the influence of associating with devotees who are more advanced than oneself, one's nishta intensifies and assumes the form of ruchi. The sadhak within whom ruchi has developed is called an uttam adhikari. Interesting, huh? The sadhak within whom such ruchi has developed is called an uttam adhikari. Only such an uttam adhikari attains unalloyed devotion. This is the eternal process for the attainment of Shuddha Bhakti. But if during the execution of this gradual process of sadhan, one keeps the bad association of those who are attached to sense pleasure, or those attached to an impersonal conception of the absolute truth, or if one disrespects a pure devotee or commits any other offense to him, then faith at the novice level, as well as that at the intermediate level, will dry up from its very root, and the sadhak will be unable to achieve pure bhakti. In such a condition, the sadhak is either entangled in chaya bhakti abhas, or in the case of committing numerous offenses, even glides down into pratibimba abhas, bhakti abhas. Therefore, until one attains the stage of uttam adhikar, the faithful and sincere sadhak should remain extremely careful. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to achieve pure devotion, which ultimately bears the fruit of divine love. Shri Krishnarpanam Astu. May this treatise be an offering unto Shri Krishna. The end. All right, so that is our. Yeah, Rukmini Didi is saying, oh, I thought Uttam Adhikari was much beyond Ruchi. I was also thinking the same thing. That's why I was like, oh, whoa, okay. And I had to reread that. Yeah, yeah, very interesting, huh? So, um, all right, I'll sing Mahamantra and Jaidvani, and then if anybody has any points they want to mention, can do so. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol. Oh, and just one thing about that. I once heard my Gurudev explain that, yeah, the general categories is there's Kanishta Adhikar, then Madhyam Adhikar, and then Uttam Adhikar. But even within those, then those are further broken down. Like there is Kanishta, and um, Madhyam Kanishta, and Uttam Kanishta. And then at the stage of Madhyam, there's Kanishta Madhyam, and then Madhyam, and then Uttam Madhyam. And then, like that, at the topmost stage, there's uh, Kanishta Uttam, Madhyam Uttam, and then Uttam Uttam. So maybe this is just a speculation, but maybe um, like being at the level of Uttam Adhikar at the stage of of Ruchi, that's Kanishta Uttam. I don't know. That's just a guess. All right. Jai Shri Sachinandan Gaur Hari ki Jai, Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki Jai, Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju ki Jai, Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupad Srimad Bhaktivedanta Adastu Shwajayani, Jai Shri Gurudev ki Jai, Jai Shri Param Gurudev ki Jai, Jai Shri Prabhupada ki Jai, Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga ki Jai, Swapashad Shri Gaur Nityananda Prabhu ki Jai, श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपी गान की जय, श्री गिरिराज महाराज की जय, श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय, अभिन्न वृंदावन श्री नवदीप धाम की जय, जय श्री सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय, जय श्री भक्ति तत्व विवेक की जय, जय श्री भक्ति देवी की जय, जय श्री रूप गोस्वामी पाद की जय, श्री भक्ति रसमित सिंधु की जय, जय श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि वो वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशवाशुच, कृष्ण भक्ति प्रददेवी सत्यवताय नमो नमः, वंश कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च पतितानं पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. Dandavat pranams. Nri Hari Prabhu, Bhavatarani Mataji, Chattamai Mataji, Nitai Mukeshji, Ashray Tattva Prabhu, and let's see on YouTube and Facebook, Rukmini Didi, Raseshwari Mataji, Prajumna Prabhu, Mantramurti Mataji, Vangshiwala Prabhu, my dear brother Krishna Murari, Ganga Mataji, Vidyalala Sadidi, Shubhananda Prabhu, and so many other devotees. I'm guessing Indira Mataji is there. Thank you so much for joining. Just looking at the chat here. What is? Oh wait. First, Vangsiwala Prabhu was saying, "How can I become an Uttam Adhikari ASAP?" Well, I think the fastest way to become an Uttam Adhikari is like what we just read, is to hear from somebody from a Ragatmika Vaishnav, somebody who already has this rag. If we hear Hari Katha from them, if we hear about the Krishna's sweet pastimes, then this lobe, this greed will come within our hearts. That's the fastest way to get to that stage of ruchi. um, okay, what's Chatamai Mataji saying? So Madhyam Adhikar and Uttam Adhikar are closer to each other than Kanishta. How do we know we've gone from ruchi beyond ruchi from Nishta? Um, yeah, I guess so. Um, because I think isn't it like Madhyam Adhikar, I guess, starts at Nishta, right? And well, actually, I don't know. I am, um, yeah, this is don't take anything I say of it as authoritative. But yeah, once we also the thing is with all these different stages, Shraddha and like that, there's so many gradations of,
Mm,
like there's different types of
mm.
Shraddha. There's um actually right here I wrote on this Vine of Devotion post that we were looking at before. Where is it? These are all the different categories of Shraddha. There's Swabhaviki Shraddha, Balapurvaka Utpadita Shraddha. So Jiva Goswami categorizes Shastriya Shraddha, Lokik Shraddha. So, or Komal Shraddha, Paramarthik Shraddha. There's different like categories of Shraddha. Um, so I'm not sure if everything is so like exact and like just like within a black and white box. I think there's like a lot of room for subtlety and different situations and but uh yeah, but it might be like that from at the Kanishta level. Everything is very difficult. It's a dangerous time when you're at the Kanishta level and your faith is not completely, it's like a little bit unwavering and not fully. And I remember my Gurudev would say that um that you're at a very like it's very dangerous. You have to be extra careful. It's a very dangerous situation until you get to the stage of Nishta. Then once you're at the stage of Nishta, then it's smooth sailing, especially when you get to the stage of Ruchi, which is so I guess but I'm not sure if you'd say like that Nishta is really when somebody's Madhyam Adhikar is at the stage of Nishta, and then Ruchi is beginning of Uttam Adhikar. So yeah, maybe there isn't as much of a gap there. And yeah, there's a big gap between Kanishta and Madhyam, maybe because yeah, they're in a much more unstable situation. And then once you get to Nishta, then you're fixed, you're firm, you're unwavering, unshakable. And then by following like that in such a strong, unshakable way, and then you get the association of Rasik Vaishnavas, who are at a high level, and then you can quickly come to the stage of Ruchi, and then from Ruchi onwards, it's just, you know. Yeah, Chattamai Mataji. Yes.
Haribol, it sounds as though even though you can read about it in a textbook, the ultimate authority would be to have us be under the guidance of a senior devotee who can tell you where you're at and what you need to focus on.
That's always the main
Yeah.
thing. Always the
Okay.
main thing.
Okay.
Yes, 100%.
Thank you.
And that's, I mean, for everything, even from staying like in what is it? Uh, it explains even the being in the association of non-envious Vaishnavas. That is our protection also from making offenses. That's the fence that we guard our bhakti lata with, is the association of sadhu, Srila Prabhupada says. And oh, Rukmini Didi has a comment. I'll read that after. Wait, Nuri Hari Prabhu.
Oh, yeah,
Thank
I don't
you.
want to interrupt. She has a comment, but I just one thing. The first thing that the devotee asked how we can rapidly go there is Sarusanga, 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 and you answer that one. So it reminded me of the story in 2009. We were with your Guru Maharaj in Venice and morning walk, and there were so many devotees. There were a few devotees, they coming from all over Europe and America, and a devotee from America said, "Oh, Maharaj, these devotees, here, they're like Kanishta and like that." Really got serious. And no, they had come from so far away. They have a taste for Harikatha, and they give up everything just to come and hear. So they're Madhyam.
Wow. Very
So
hopeful.
it's always His grace. If He said so, if a pure devotee gives that blessing, you know. But yeah, the enthusiasm to hear from them, from these pure devotees, that's the nourishment necessary to advance.
Jai.
My little opinion. Haribol.
I sometimes get confused though, because lots of times, like sometimes we'll read and it seems like I get different ideas of what is Kanishta, Madhyam, and Uttam in different contexts. Sometimes it seems like not so difficult, and then other times it just seems like, oh my God, it's the stage of Madhyam is like, you know, many thousands of miles ahead of me. And like, so sometimes it seems more difficult and sometimes it seems more easy. And like, I always get confused by different explanations of
Yeah,
what
yeah.
do these
But the
categories
trump
mean.
card is always a pure devotee. If his opinion is such, then that's it. But like you were saying, Madhyam Adhikari too, there's the levels of Madhyam and
Yes.
like that. And so yeah, it was for all of us, we were all like taken aback when he said, Srila Maharaj said, no, they come from so far away, sacrifice so much just to come and hear Harikatha. No, they're Madhyam. This one said, "Oh no, when are they gonna get here? We're all kind of worse than that." So yeah,
Okay. I'm just,
association, association.
yes, Sadhu Sangha is everything.
Yeah, probably.
Um,
Sorry,
you-
Rukmini, I didn't mean to interrupt.
no, you didn't interrupt anything. No, I
Okay.
mean, let's see what her comment is. Um, IIRC, I don't know what that stands for, what that's an acronym for, but IIRC. Um, in Madhurya Kadambini, it says that in Ruchi, one finds taste in remembering the Lord when one decides to engage in remembrance. And in Asakti, remembrance comes continuously, spontaneously. Interesting. Hmm. That's the one book we're going to need to read at some point, Madhurya Kadambini. I don't know when we should do that. Oh, if I recall correctly. Okay, cool. New acronym I learned. If I recall correctly. Yeah, I wonder when we should do that program. Reading through Madhurya Kadambini. That's yeah. Anyways, I'll think about it. Maybe actually I don't. Oh yeah, we were at the end of Bhakti-tattva-viveka. I just realized we just finished the book. So what's next? I don't know yet.
Haribol, there was a
Yes.
suggestion in that book, Chaitanya Sikshamrita.
Yes, Chaitanya Shikshamrita. That's that, and I would really like to read that. Um, there is a
Thank you,
translation
Prabhu.
done by Damodar Maharaj. He made a translation of Chaitanya Shikshamrita. Um, Lots of times his translations, like he moves really fast, and I don't think I don't know the whole story with that. So he did translate it, and I'm not sure who checked it and all that. So if it went through a good checking process and everything, then otherwise I would like eventually that book is going to be published by GVP. Um, I think Chandrasekhar wants to translate that book. And so I'm not sure if we should hold on that until we have a GVP translation of it, or maybe Damodar Maharaj's translation is good. I just don't know. I'd have to check it. I do know, like with Madhuri Kadambini, the Damodar Maharaj was the one who originally translated this Madhuri Kadambini. And I helped him with it, like at the very beginning, like in 2006. He would read from the book and I would type, but his style of translation is kind of just like get it done really quickly, and he doesn't like really take a very long time on it. And so um, this book took, I think it was like 13 years or something like that of work went into this book, like checking everything and making like it went through a really thorough process so that everything was really perfect. And yeah, but so I don't know the condition of yeah. Anyways, but I'll 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 look into that.
Good ideas,
Hello.
Prabhu. Thank you for a
And
beautiful class.
thank you. And also I know what's her name, Sarveshwari Mataji. She was suggesting we read Bhajan Rahasya next because we read Harinam Chintamani and Bhajan Rahasya that go together. Um, I kind of like the idea of going through Madhuri Kadambini, but I don't know. I'm also kind of like I want to continue doing the Bhaktivinoda Giti Thara program, so I don't want to start anything that's way too long because once I send the songbook to the printers, then I want to continue the yeah. Anyways, well, I'm gonna think about it, and I'll write a bunch of maybe I can write a bunch of different options, and then we can all vote on it. What book everybody wants to go through next. Um, Tomorrow, I think what we'll do is revise the Dashmula Shiksha verses that we already memorized. Yeah, we should start that back up again. So, yeah. All right. Dandavat pranams, everybody. See you all tomorrow. Jai Shri Radhe.
Dandavad, thank you.